It started with a receipt. Not a lipstick-stained collar. Not a missing earring or suspicious perfume. Just a plain thermal paper receipt, crumpled in the passenger side footwell of her car. The kind of thing most people would overlook. But I'm not most people. I'm an engineer, and engineers notice patterns. And when the patterns change, something's off. Caroline always kept her car clean, neat to the point of obsession. The floor mats were spotless, the glove compartment alphabetized. I borrowed her car that morning after mine wouldn't start, and the receipt had slipped beneath my shoe as I got in. When I picked it up, it was warm from the sun, ink slightly faded, dated 2 nights ago. A bar, not one we'd ever been to. It was across town, near the university. The kind of bar with overpriced cocktails and string lights outside to distract from the sticky floors and chipped paint. A place full of undergrads and bartenders who looked like they modeled part-time. I wouldn't have thought much of it. Caroline had friends. She went out occasionally. But I checked our shared calendar later. Nothing. That was the first red flag. The second came when I flipped the receipt over. A number. 7 digits, scrawled fast, like someone had written it with a rush of adrenaline and poor judgment. No name. Just, ask for Jay. I didn't say anything at dinner that night. I made pasta. She brought home a bottle of wine. Our kids, Ella and Jonah, chattered between bites and screen time. Caroline smiled like nothing had changed, like she didn't have someone else's phone number burning a hole in her purse 2 nights prior. I smiled too, played the part, ate my pasta, and asked about her day. But my mind was already sorting variables. 2 days later, I sat in my office at the firm, the bar's name punched into Google. Found the place. Found the Yelp photos. A couple shots of the interior, mostly dimly lit. But one photo stood out. Group of bartenders, all black shirts, standing behind the counter, arms slung around each other. Front and center, a man with tattooed arms, a sharp jawline, and the kind of grin that knew exactly what it was doing. Caption said, Jax and the crew. Jax. Jay. I didn't know what I was expecting. I just stared at the photo for a long time, studying the way he leaned into the camera. Confident. Handsome. Dangerous. I wasn't jealous. I'm not built that way. But I was curious. Why him? Caroline and I had been together 11 years. Married 9. We met in line at a DMV, of all places. She made a joke about the line being longer than the wait to get into heaven, and I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because she was... Our life had been predictable in all the ways people call good. 2 kids. A mortgage. Vacations to places with kids' menus. Stability. Quiet sex on weekends. Love, I suppose, in the form of small gestures. Coffee made without asking. Her hand finding mine during bad dreams. But in hindsight, it had started to erode. Not loudly. Not with arguments or threats. Just little withdrawals. Missed glances. Averted eyes. Smiles that didn't quite reach the corners anymore. And now, a bartender named Jax. I didn't accuse her. I'm not the type to confront without evidence. I believe in structures, in building a foundation before making a move. Instead, I installed a keylogger on her home laptop, set up a clone of her phone using a discrete app and an old Android I had lying in a drawer. I placed a small recorder under the driver's seat of her car and a second inside her gym bag. I knew the laws. Nothing illegal. I wasn't breaking into anything. I was just observing. It felt clinical at first, like gathering data for a case study, until I heard her voice on the recording. I can't stop thinking about Friday, she whispered, laughing. You're so bad for me. A male voice replied, muffled but amused. Bad never felt so good, baby. My stomach turned, but my fingers didn't shake as I copied the audio to a separate file and labeled it. Subject under confirmation that MP3. That night, she curled in a bed beside me like nothing had changed. And maybe for her, it hadn't. Maybe I was the only one who had changed, who now saw her as someone else entirely. A stranger in my bed, breathing softly, dreaming of another man's touch. I lay awake, listening to the hum of the ceiling fan and wondering how long she had been gone. Not physically, emotionally, mentally. How long had I been living with a ghost? I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. This wasn't a drama. It was a chess game, and she had just moved her queen. Now it was my turn. The next day, I went to the bar. I didn't go to drink, not really. Just water with lemon. I took a seat near the end of the counter where I could see everything without being too obvious. I timed it. Mid-shift on a Tuesday, slow foot traffic, low chance of running into someone I knew. The place looked exactly like it did online. Rustic decor, hanging Edison bulbs, a chalkboard cocktail menu with ironic names like Whiskey Business and Rum Forest Rum. And then I saw him. Tattooed forearms. Tight black t-shirt. The grin that had once only lived inside a photo, now directed toward a blonde at the other end of the bar. He leaned in as he poured her drink, and she giggled. A professional flirt, sure, but there was an ease in how he did it, like he wasn't pretending. I watched for a while, took note of how he moved, how he touched her hand as he passed her the glass. His confidence was infuriatingly genuine. When the crowd thinned, he finally approached me. "What can I get you, man?" "Water's fine," I said. "Driving?" "Respect," he nodded. "You here for trivia night?" "Nope, just people watching." He smiled politely and moved down the bar. I didn't expect a bolt of recognition in his eyes. Why would he know me? Caroline wouldn't risk showing him a picture. But I studied him like a man reads a blueprint, scanning for weak points. There was something in the way he held himself, a kind of restless energy. He wasn't just here for the paycheck. He liked the chase. I finished my water and left a $20 tip. I wanted him to remember me, even if he didn't know why. Back home, Caroline was folding laundry on the couch. The kids were in the playroom watching some animated chaos. She looked up and smiled. That same sweet, practiced smile that had once disarmed me. "Hey, where'd you disappear to?" "Had to stop by a supplier," I lied. "They messed up a materials shipment." She nodded, not pressing. The perfect wife with the perfect alibi. We ate dinner in quiet conversation. Chicken stir-fry, steamed rice, sparkling water. The kind of meal that says, nothing's wrong. But now I tasted the silence between bites. I looked at her hands, her wedding ring still there. I wondered if she took it off when she saw him. Or maybe she let him see it. Some women do that. Makes them feel more dangerous, more wanted. After dinner, the kids went to bed, and Caroline stepped into the shower. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the clone phone. It buzzed, new text. "Miss your lips already. You free Friday." There was a pause in the chat, as if she'd been deliberating. Then, finally, her reply. "Possibly. We'll text after I check the schedule. Might have to lie again. Just say it's a girls' night. That usually works. LOL. You're bad. But you love it." I closed the phone gently and stared at the wall. My eyes didn't blink. My heart didn't race. Just silence. This wasn't a drunken one-night thing. This was frequent, coordinated, and she was lying smoothly enough to carry it all without a flicker of guilt. Worse, she was laughing while she did it. The next day, I called in a favor from a friend in IT who owed me one from a previous contract. I wanted more than just messages. I wanted geolocation, audio logs, deleted content. If he'd sent her photos, I wanted those too. By Thursday, I had it all. They met at least 6 times over the past month. Motel rooms. One hotel, cheap enough to pay in cash, classy enough to have clean sheets. Texts about the way she moans and how she keeps coming back. Photos, too. A mirror selfie of him shirtless, holding a cocktail, another of her bare legs across a motel bed. Her face wasn't in any of them. She wasn't stupid, but she was predictable. Friday came fast. She told me she'd be going out with Beth, her friend from yoga. Just dinner drinks. "I'll be home by 11, maybe later. Have fun," I said, kissing her forehead like I always did. She smiled, lingered just long enough to make it convincing. As she pulled out of the driveway, I tailed her from 5 cars back in a borrowed rental. No plates she'd recognize. I watched as she drove across town, not to Beth's condo, but straight to a nondescript hotel near the highway. Room 214. I waited across the street in a dimly lit parking lot, snapping photos through a telephoto lens as she met Jax at the door. She kissed him, full on. Then they disappeared inside. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there in the dark car, engine off, the sound of my own breath the only noise. The pictures were time-stamped. The evidence was stacked. And with that, the structure I'd been building started to take shape. This wasn't about saving a marriage anymore. It was about preparing the battlefield. And she had no idea the war had already begun. By Saturday morning, I was calm. That surprised me more than anything. After what I saw last night, the embrace, the lips on his neck, her hand casually grabbing his ass like it belonged to her, I expected rage, violence, some primal eruption. But what I felt was colder, focused, a quiet detachment, like watching a house burn that you'd already decided to sell. I'd been a husband, a provider, a father, or at least I thought I was. Now, I was something else, a man with time, and evidence, and motive. I printed the photos that morning. Not all of them, just the ones that mattered. Her standing at the door, her kissing him, her hands wrapped around his back. Nothing graphic, nothing illegal, just enough to draw blood in court, should it come to that. I slid them into an envelope and labeled it with one word: insurance. Then I did something Caroline never expected. I cleaned the garage, tossed out old boxes, reorganized tools, made room on the shelves. On the surface, it looked like a weekend chore. Normal, harmless. But beneath the surface, I was laying the groundwork, clearing space, both physically and mentally. Later that day, I brought the kids to the park, played catch with Jonah, pushed Ella on the swings. I watched them laugh, completely oblivious to the fault line forming beneath their feet. And that's when the grief hit, not for me, but for them, for the lie they were being raised in, for the mother who came home smiling after a stranger had been inside her hours before. They deserved better, and I wasn't going to let her take them without a fight. That night, I watched her carefully. She came home late again, hair slightly tousled, not enough to arouse suspicion, but enough for a trained eye to notice. I pretended not to. How was Beth? She's good, she said, kicking off her heels. We grabbed drinks near the wharf. Ended up talking until late. I nodded, pretending to watch the news. That's nice. Tell her I just said hi next time. I will. Her lies were so smooth, they practically polished the air around her. And it hit me, she wasn't in conflict about this. Not torn, not guilt-ridden. She was comfortable. The marriage, the kids, the double life, it was all working for her. And that made her dangerous. Monday, I met with a lawyer. Not mine. Not yet. No, this one was hers. I'd done some digging. The year after Jonah was born, she consulted a family lawyer under the guise of updating her will. What she didn't know was that I saw the invoice, buried under a stack of medical bills she never sorted properly. So I paid him a visit under an alias. Jeremy Hall, I said, offering my hand. Interested in a consult. Considering separation. The lawyer was sleek, confident, the type who wore cufflinks and took meetings in wood-paneled offices. We talked in hypotheticals, of course. No identifying names. Just my wife, a suspected affair, and 2 children, both under 10. And then I asked the real question. If she did consult with you in the past, would that prevent her from retaining your services again? He nodded. Absolutely. Once a consultation occurs, a conflict of interest exists. She wouldn't be able to retain me. Perfect, I said, standing. That's all I needed to know. I paid the consultation fee and walked out. One more pawn knocked off her board before she even realized the game had started. Over the next few days, I met with 3 more lawyers. All the best in the city. All now legally conflicted from representing her. I wasn't planning to file. Not yet. But when the time came, I didn't want her to have any weapons left in her drawer. Let her dig through the legal yellow pages while I built my fortress. Friday night, she had another girls' night. Same hotel, same man, same lies. I didn't tail her this time. I didn't need to. The recorder I'd planted in her purse picked up everything. I sat in my office at home, listening to her giggle, the clinking of glasses, the muted thump of a headboard hitting the wall. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I opened a spreadsheet. A war budget. Line items for private investigators, custody specialists, digital forensics. I tallied my assets, updated my will, removed her as medical proxy, changed the beneficiaries on my life insurance to my sister, froze the credit card she used for shopping. I left the shared ones untouched. She'd need them for now. Let her keep thinking I was still asleep. Let her run up the bill. The bill was coming due either way. That Sunday, we took the kids to brunch. A sunny patio, French toast, an orange juice, and fake smiles. She reached across the table, touched my hand. You've been so sweet lately, she said. I kissed her knuckles. You bring it out of me. She laughed, eyes sparkling. And in that moment, I realized something that chilled me deeper than anything yet. She loved this. The deception, the thrill, the balance between domestic and forbidden. She wasn't just surviving the lie. She was thriving in it. And that made her a different kind of opponent altogether. Not someone to reason with. Not someone to save. But someone to dismantle. Piece by piece. I waited until Monday. There's something poetic about dropping your first domino at the start of the work week. When everyone's guard is down. When they're just easing into the rhythm of routine. I walked into the Hollow, the bar where Jax poured his cheap liquor and false charm, and sat in the same corner seat I had before. A weekday afternoon, just like last time. Predictable. Quiet. He saw me this time. Really saw me. Hey man, he said, flicking a towel over his shoulder. Back again, huh? I looked up slowly. Met his eyes. Yep. Thought I'd try something stronger today. He grinned, oblivious to the context. Whiskey. Neat, I replied. He turned, poured, and as he set the glass in front of me, I slid a small black envelope across the bar. What's this? Proof you're fucking a married woman, I said, cool as glass. He froze. No grand denial. No chuckle. Just a blink and a twitch in the corner of his jaw. I sipped the whiskey. Go ahead. Open it. He pulled the envelope back like it might be rigged to explode. When he saw the photos, the time-stamped kiss, the motel room door, her hand on his back, his face drained to chalk. I didn't know, he started. You didn't care. He nodded once. A quiet admission. You know her name? I asked. He hesitated. Caroline. Her last name. He didn't answer. Right? I said, finishing the whiskey. Let me paint you a picture, Jax. I'm not a violent man. Not a yeller. Not a punch thrower. But I am persistent. And very, very methodical. He swallowed. You've already made a mistake sleeping with her. The next mistake would be continuing. And the third would be thinking you can erase your part in any of this. He opened his mouth. I raised a hand. I don't care about your apologies. I don't even care if she lied to you. That's between you and your conscience. I'm here to offer you a choice. He raised an eyebrow. Option 1. You stop seeing her immediately. You block her number. You don't return her messages. You disappear. And option 2. I leaned in. I forward those photos to your boss, your landlord, your mother if I have to. I burn your bridges so thoroughly, you'll be tending bar in another state under a different name. And that's just for starters. His jaw clenched. Make no mistake, I said. This isn't about you. You're just a tool. One she used. I'm only talking to you out of courtesy. She's the target. He looked down at the photos again. I never meant to. I know, I said, rising. That's the thing about wrecking balls. They never mean to destroy, but they swing just the same. I left the bar without looking back. I'd planted the seed. Now I needed to see how it grew. Caroline texted Jax 2 days later. I saw it on the clone. Hey, what's going on? You've been quiet. No reply. Are we okay? Did I do something? Still silence. By Thursday, she was pacing the bedroom when she thought I wasn't looking, texting with the kind of frantic energy of someone watching a secret unravel. She tried calling. Straight to voicemail. She didn't suspect me. Not yet. That was important. She blamed him. I watched her sit at the edge of the bed that night, holding her phone like it held the answer to everything. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. Meanwhile, I paid a visit to her office. Not to confront, just to observe. Caroline worked at a PR agency downtown. Their building had glass walls and minimalist desks, and those little succulents everyone pretends to water. I watched from across the street. Watched her come and go. Saw her fake her way through meetings and coffee runs, smiling like she didn't have a fracture under her skin. That afternoon, I left a manila envelope on the receptionist's desk addressed to Human Resources, Confidential. Inside were 3 printed photos, a brief letter detailing the company's fraternization policy, and a note suggesting one of their employees had been conducting a personal relationship with a known bartender during company time and on business trips. I signed it anonymously. It wasn't enough to get her fired. Not yet, but it was a warning shot. I knew she'd spiral. Caroline always liked to think she was in control. She built her life like a carefully curated Instagram page. Charming, poised, ideal. But her flaw was arrogance. She never thought she could be caught. When Jax ghosted her, she unraveled quickly. By Friday, she was drinking wine in the middle of the afternoon, snapping at the kids, crying quietly in the kitchen. I kept my distance, played the part of the concerned husband. "Everything okay?" I asked that night. "Just stressed," she said. "Work's been insane. Anything I can do?" She shook her head. "You've been great lately, though. I really appreciate that." She touched my arm. I smiled, even as I prepared to destroy her. That weekend, I met with Michelle, my old friend from college. She was a divorce attorney now, sharp as a scalpel and twice as cold. I laid it all out: the affair, the recordings, the phone clone, the financials. She looked at me across the table, nodded slowly. "When are you going to tell her?" "Not yet." She sipped her coffee. "You want her to break first?" "No," I said, smiling thinly. "I want her to fall apart without knowing why." 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of silence from Jax. 2 weeks of Caroline checking her phone in half-second intervals. 2 weeks of me pretending to be the man she thought she had, dependable, unassuming, and blind. She'd stopped bringing up Beth. No more spontaneous girls' nights. No more casual plans that ended with her slipping out in heels and perfume she never wore for me. Instead, she stayed home, and she tried harder. She cooked. She dressed up for dinner. She touched me in ways she hadn't in months. A lesser man might have mistaken it for love. I knew better. It wasn't guilt. It was panic. She could feel the shift, but she couldn't name it. That was the beauty of it. The unease was crawling under her skin, and she didn't even know what direction to run in. And me? I watched. There's a cruel clarity that comes when the veil lifts. You see the gears behind every smile, the calculations behind every touch. She wasn't trying to reconnect. She was trying to salvage the version of me that let her cheat in peace. I wasn't that man anymore. Wednesday night, I got home late from a meeting. Caroline was sitting on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, the TV playing something she wasn't watching. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, but it was one of those nods that meant no. I don't know," she said. "I feel like something's off lately. Do you feel it too?" I sat beside her, slow and quiet. "Yeah," I said. "I felt it for a while." She looked at me, really looked, eyes wide, lips parted. "Is it us?" I let the silence linger, let her marinate in it. "Maybe," I said finally. "Or maybe it's something else." Her voice cracked. "Have you been seeing someone?" The irony nearly made me laugh. "No," I said softly. "Have you?" Her eyes snapped to mine. Too quick, too defensive. "No. God, no. Why would you even ask that?" Why, indeed. But I didn't press. I just nodded slowly. Okay. Let the seed bloom in her brain. Let it take root and fester. She was unraveling, and all I had to do was keep pulling thread. That weekend, I met Jax again. Not at his bar. At his apartment. A rundown second-floor walk-up near the warehouse district. He opened the door shirtless, like I hadn't threatened to blow up his life a week ago. "Seriously?" I said. He shrugged. "Didn't think you'd actually show." I stepped inside. The place smelled like weed and Febreze. Posters of old concerts and whiskey brands. No furniture matched. "She's still texting you," I said. "I know. You respond yet?" He shook his head. "Thought about it. Almost did. Then I remembered you." I tossed a manila folder on his coffee table. "What's this?" "Back pay," I said. "For being a good little soldier." He opened the folder. It wasn't money. It was a notarized affidavit. A written confession detailing the affair. Names, dates, locations. Even a brief note admitting he knew she was married after the first time, but continued anyway. He looked up at me. "Are you serious?" "Dead. You want me to sign this? I want you to think about what happens if you don't." He stared at the document for a long while. Finally, "You know she's not going to just vanish, right? She's going to find out." "I know. She's going to lose it." I smiled. "Good." He signed. Back at home, Caroline was folding laundry while the kids played upstairs. I stood in the hallway, watching her for a full minute before stepping inside. She looked up. "Hey," she said, offering a small smile. "How was your day?" "Productive," I replied. I sat across from her, silent, studying. She didn't like silence anymore. It made her squirm. "Can I ask you something?" she said after a beat. "Always. If something was bothering you, if something was wrong, you'd tell me, right?" I tilted my head. "Would you?" Her face flinched before she caught it, but I saw it. That little flicker of terror behind her eyes. I just mean, I know what you meant. I stood, leaned down, kissed her on the forehead. You're a good liar, Caroline, but you're not a good actress. And I left the room. Later that night, I dropped the signed affidavit into a safe deposit box under a dummy LLC, one of many new entities I'd created in the past month. Caroline didn't know it yet, but every asset not nailed down had already been moved. Bank accounts emptied, investments liquidated, house refinanced under my name alone thanks to a quiet job change she never noticed. Mine, not hers. It was all legal, clean, and irreversible. The next day, she got served. At her office, right before lunch. Divorce papers. A formal motion citing infidelity. Attached was the affidavit from Jax and printed text messages from the clone phone. I wasn't there to see it, but I didn't have to be. I timed it with precision. Her coworkers saw it. Her assistant saw it. Hell, even her HR rep saw it. Her double life died in a boardroom with frosted glass walls. She didn't come home that night. Didn't call. Didn't text. The kids didn't ask. They were used to her work emergencies. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and waited, the papers for full custody already in the printer tray. Because this wasn't the climax. This was the beginning of her fall. And I wasn't done. Not yet. She came home at 2:17 a.m. I was still awake, of course. Didn't want to miss the show. She tried to slip in quietly, keys barely jingling, heels in one hand, mascara streaked. The moment our eyes met in the hallway, she froze like a thief caught mid-step. Caroline looked different. Not just tired, haunted. You're awake, she said, as if that was the problem. You look like hell, I replied calmly. She didn't respond, just dropped her heels on the floor and walked toward the kitchen. I followed, slow and silent. I assume you've read the papers, I said. She paused, her back to me. She began, voice dry. You blindsided me. That's rich, coming from you. Caroline turned. How could you do this to me at work? I figured I'd return the favor, I said. Since that's where you took him, isn't it? Her lips parted, but no words came. Just the click of her jaw, her composure buckling under the weight of being exposed. She tried again. It's not what you... No, I stepped forward. No lies. Not anymore. Her mouth closed. The texts, the photos, the audio. You've been cheating on me for 6 months, longer, probably. And now you're standing here, trying to pretend your only problem is where you got caught. I expected a fight, screaming, accusations. But she just deflated, sat at the kitchen island, and stared down at the marble countertop like it could explain everything. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said quietly. You never do, I replied. She looked up at me, eyes brimming. He meant nothing. Then you threw our life away for nothing. I said, congratulations. That hit her. She winced like I'd slapped her. But I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I wasn't going to let her make me the villain. I loved you, she said. No, I corrected. You love the life, the house, the security, the convenience of being adored without the burden of reciprocation. She bit her lip. I didn't cheat for love, she said. It was just different. There it was. That word. Different. The polite term for better in ways you couldn't be. You know what I've realized? I said, you didn't betray me for passion or some magnetic connection. You did it because you could. Because he made you feel young, desirable, unaccountable. She didn't deny it. She just cried, tears sliding down her cheeks, hands trembling against the countertop. I watched for a moment, not with satisfaction, with finality. This house is mine now, I told her. I've filed for exclusive residence. You'll be served with a restraining order tomorrow. Her head snapped up. What? You can't. I already did. I dropped a small stack of papers on the counter. Financial disclosures, bank withdrawals, asset transfers, copies for her lawyer, if she managed to find one not conflicted out. You'll have visitation, I continued, if the court grants it, but I'm filing for full custody. I've built the case. You abandoned your role as mother the moment you made motel reservations. Gary, please, she whispered. Don't do this to the kids. I'm not. You did. I turned and walked away. Halfway up the stairs, she called after me. Did you ever love me? I stopped, turned my head just enough to answer without looking back. I love the version of you that loved me. The next morning, I met with my attorney. He handed me a folder. Her HR department opened an inquiry. She's been placed on leave pending investigation. I nodded. She's reaching out to lawyers, but you got to the top 5 in the city. She's stuck with someone green. Perfect. He grinned. You're scaring me a little, Gary. I didn't smile back. She doesn't get to keep the life she faked her way into. Not without a cost. She's asking for mediation. Tell her no. She says she wants to explain. She lost that right the moment she opened her leg for a bartender with a tribal sleeve and a fake Southern accent. My lawyer chuckled. You always were a quiet one. Nobody knew you had this in you. Neither did she. 2 days later, she left the house. A suitcase, a cardboard box of toiletries, a confused look on her face as the sheriff handed her the order. She didn't fight, didn't scream, just watched me with those wide, broken eyes like I was someone she never really knew. Maybe she never did. As the door clicked shut behind her, I finally exhaled. 10 years of pretending, of forgiving small cuts and chalking them up to the weight of married life. 10 years of quiet sacrifices and unreciprocated loyalty. And all it took to unravel it was one bartender. Well, him and me. Because I didn't just catch her cheating. I engineered her fall. The restraining order didn't break her. Not at first. I thought it might. Thought she'd crumble and vanish quietly into whatever rented apartment she could afford with half a paycheck and zero credibility. But I underestimated Caroline's pride. 3 days after she left, I got a call from the kids' school. She was here, the principal said. She's not allowed to make contact outside of supervised visitation. I replied coldly. I know, she said, but she didn't try to pick them up. She just sat in her car. For over an hour. Noted. I hung up. No emotion. Just another log on the fire I'd been tending for months. She texted me that night. Can we please talk? 1 hour. That's all I asked. I didn't reply. She sent another the next morning. You don't understand what you're doing. You're making me out to be the villain. I laughed at that one. A quiet, bitter chuckle over a cup of black coffee. Then came a voicemail. 36 seconds of tears, half-finished sentences, and something about how the kids deserved 2 parents. That one I saved, just in case. The first time she tried to violate the order, she got lucky. No contact, no approach. Just parked outside the grocery store while I was inside with Ella. The second time, she showed up at Jonah's soccer game. She waited across the street, sunglasses too big for her face, scarf around her neck like she was in some made-for-TV redemption arc. That time, I called the cops. By the time they got there, she was gone. But they filed a report. She was unraveling. The control she'd clung to for years. Over me, the kids, her image. It was all gone now. And she didn't know how to exist without it. Jax reached out again. That part surprised me. I thought he'd vanish. Crawl back to whatever hole he poured drinks in and pretend it never happened. But instead, I got a call from a block number. You win, he said. I didn't say anything. She found me, he added. Came to the bar. Made a scene. And she told me she was pregnant. I felt the chill creep up my spine. Yours? I asked. He exhaled hard. She says so. I don't know. Do you believe her? She lies like it's a first language. So no. I nodded, even though he couldn't see. Why tell me? Because she said if you didn't take her back, she'd tell the kids everything. That you were abusive, controlling, that you pushed her into an affair. My grip tightened around the phone. She said she'd destroy you, he added, even if she had to go down too. There it was, the final card in her hand. A lie soaked in desperation, ready to be weaponized. But I wasn't worried, because I had everything. Recordings, photos, affidavits, witnesses, the school principal, the HR rep, even her old friend Beth who, once this all came to light, offered me an apologetic email full of timestamps and misplaced guilt. Let her try. I could bury her twice and still have shovels left over. That weekend, Jonah asked about her. We were playing with Legos in the den. He looked up, out of nowhere, and said, "Why doesn't Mom live here anymore?" I looked him in the eye. Didn't flinch. She made choices that weren't good for our family, I said carefully. So now she's living somewhere else. Did she stop loving us? No, I said. But sometimes love isn't enough when people make bad choices. He nodded. Went back to building. No more questions. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. They can smell lies like smoke. And for years, mine have been breathing it in without even knowing. Now, finally, the air was clean. Monday morning, she tried to serve me. Not legally, not with lawyers. Personally, she showed up at the office parking lot, red-eyed and jittery, holding a thick envelope and shouting my name. Michelle, my assistant, my firewall, blocked her like a linebacker in a pencil skirt. "You're violating a court order," she said, cool as ice. "I just want to talk to my husband," Caroline spat. "You lost that privilege." The building security had her removed before I even made it downstairs. Inside the envelope, a printed email from Jax. A half-hearted retraction of his affidavit. A forged one, most likely. Sloppy. Desperate. Unbelievably dumb. I gave it to my lawyer, who grinned like a man getting Christmas early. "This woman's going to jail if she keeps this up," he said. I didn't respond. I was still staring at the envelope, still seeing the scribbled handwriting on the corner that said, "For the sake of the kids, please," as if she'd ever put them first. The next hearing came quick. Emergency motion for full custody, now supported by multiple violations, harassment claims, and testimony from the children's therapist, who she hadn't even known they were seeing. That day in court, she sat alone. No Jax, no family, no allies. Her lawyer barely spoke. When the judge ruled in my favor, Caroline didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just looked down at her lap and said, "I didn't think you'd go this far." And for the first time in months, I allowed myself the faintest smile. I haven't even started. 3 months later, the dust had mostly settled. Caroline was gone. The house was mine. The kids were safe. On paper, it looked like I'd won. Friends call me strong. Brave. "I don't know how you kept it together," they said. I didn't correct them. The truth was simpler. I didn't keep it together. I broke, just in silence. Caroline moved into a 2-bedroom rental on the edge of the city. Her visitation rights were supervised. She saw the kids every other Saturday at a children's center with 2-way mirrors and caseworkers sipping cold coffee. At first, Jonah refused to speak to her. Ella clung to the therapist like a life raft. I didn't coach them. I didn't need to. Kids know when someone vanishes emotionally before they do physically. The courts gave me full custody. No alimony. She was ordered to pay child support, but her hours got cut shortly after she returned to work. Apparently, a public affair and multiple HR complaints don't look great on a resume. Her spiral was fast and ugly, and I never once stopped it. The final blow was financial. She'd never been great with money. She treated credit cards like Monopoly cash, always assuming I'd clean up the mess. But after the divorce, she had no safety net. I revoked her authorized access, closed our joint accounts, froze the last of the shared assets while my lawyer moved through the court's maze like a snake in silk. By the time she realized what had happened, the only thing in her name was a used Corolla and a stack of final notice letters. She emailed me once. "You win." The body was empty. I never replied. Jax disappeared. I heard he left town, or got fired, or both. Someone said they saw him managing a bar upstate, looking lean and wired, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Good. Let him rot in a room full of cheap beer and dim lights. Let him remember her only in flashes. Lipstick on his collar, perfume on his sheets, and the moment he realized she'd turned toxic the second the chase was over. He was never my real enemy. He was just the vessel. Caroline was the architect. Michelle, the woman who stood beside me through it all, eventually asked a question I'd been avoiding. Now what? It was a fair question. I'd built an empire out of ashes, rebuilt my life around betrayal, fought like hell to shield my kids, bury the past, and walk away clean. And now silence. The revenge was done. The rage had cooled. The war was over. But peace? Peace was something I hadn't prepared for. It came unexpectedly. On a Sunday afternoon, watching Jonah ride his bike without training wheels for the first time. Ella cheered like she'd won an Olympic medal, and I clapped proud, whole, and exhausted. That night, I sat on the back porch with Michelle. The kids were asleep. The air smelled like rain on concrete. She handed me a glass of wine and said, "You ever going to let someone love you again?" I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know. Caroline had taught me to doubt every soft word, every late-night text, every glance too long or voice too sweet. She broke the version of love I'd once believed in. But as Michelle sat beside me, not pushing, not prying, just there, I realized something. Caroline may have broken the myth, but not the man. I was still standing. And maybe, just maybe, that was the real win. I still have the folder, the recordings, the texts, the affidavit, tucked away in a safe that nobody knows about. Not because I need them anymore, but because every kingdom needs a record of the coup. A reminder that peace was earned, not given. And that even the quietest man in the room can burn everything to the ground if you light the wrong match.